Well, folks, here again for the weekly forecast. Of course, during this last week, we did have a precipitation event that impacted the state, brought some welcome moisture to southern Nebraska, which has missed out on many of the precipitation events that we've seen move across the state over the last month. In fact, most of the totals that I've seen, at least in the western half of the state, range anywhere from about a quarter to a half an inch. There's a few isolated pockets that are approaching the 3/4 of an inch range. The second piece of moisture from that system came out across eastern Nebraska as we got into the Thursday evening into the Friday morning time frame, and once again we've seen similar types of precipitation. Half an inch was very common across a good portion of eastern Nebraska, with a few pockets, particularly as you got up into northeastern Nebraska, of around 3/4 of an inch. Further to our south, this upper air low did bring some very significant moisture to Texas and Oklahoma. This is an area that has received little in the way of significant moisture over the last couple months, and we had seen the drought intensify rather rapidly in this region, so we should expect at least to see a 1-category reduction in the drought depiction for Texas. And if this pattern continues as we expect through the fall period, it would not shock me whatsoever that we will see pretty much the entire elimination of drought in Texas before we get through the winter, and it wouldn't surprise me if we see it before the end of the year, because we are seeing these upper air lows coming into the western United States and cutting off, and as they cut off they slowly drift toward the east, and we see some significant moisture. This system that affected Texas and our region of the Central Plains really bore down on Southern California last week, only to see it transverse into eastern portions of Texas as we got into this week. And if we look 2 weeks back, we've seen a similar type scenario sit over the southeastern United States as upper air low pumped up tremendous volumes of moisture in association with a tropical system, led to significant flooding in the southeast. So that's a pattern we would expect to continue through the winter, and unfortunately we have to watch out for is one of these systems ejecting out and sitting over the Central Plains and spinning for several days and dumping a tremendous volume of precipitation. It would be exceptionally bad news if it occurred, of course, at the early part or the late part of the winter, where we would expect to see some significant moisture in the form of snow out of that type of system. No snow in the forecast right now, but we do have a couple systems that will move across the northern plains that could give us a chance for some sprinkles as we get into the middle of next week. Let's take a look at the upper air models and see what we have in store. I'll draw your attention to a slight troughing pattern across the upper Great Lakes region. This is the remnants of the system that moved from the southwestern United States and merged with the northern stream, is now moving toward the Great Lakes. So in its wake, we're going to see some cool air across eastern Nebraska. The coolest, of course, northeast Nebraska. But we are going to see fairly dry conditions today and not expecting much in the way of even cloud cover. And as we move into tomorrow, we will see ridging starting to take place in advance of another system coming into the Pacific Northwest. So we're going to bump our temperatures 4 or 5 degrees, but we're still going to be seasonable. We'll be looking at low 60s in the northeast to approaching the 70-degree mark in the southwest. And as we get into Monday, we are going to see the system starting to approach our region. So we are going to start to see some cloud cover increasing across the western part of the state, an outside chance for a sprinkle. But more importantly, we'll probably see that occur more on Tuesday, and we'll start to see a slight cool down in temperature or steady state in temperatures across western Nebraska, and maybe an increase of 4 or 5 degrees across extreme southeastern Nebraska. As we get into Tuesday, the system starts to roll across the northern plains. It's going to draw up a cold front through our region, so we're looking for a chance for precipitation across the western half of the state Tuesday afternoon through Wednesday morning. And as we get into eastern Nebraska, we're probably going to be looking at the precipitation forming as we get into the first half of Wednesday as this upper air low moves toward the Great Lakes and strengthens. This is going to bring some very cold air behind it, so we're looking at hard freeze conditions probably for a good portion of the state that missed out on the past freeze of last week. And then as we get into Thursday, we start to see the ridge build back in with warmer temperatures coming into the region. And once again on Friday, yet another system comes through, giving us a chance for precipitation. So if we look at the temperature forecast, we are going to be pretty much stuck in the 60s across the southern and southwestern portion of the state, with 50s to low 60s across the northeast. And we're looking at maybe the mid 40s across northeastern Nebraska on Wednesday. 8 to 14-day forecast brings the warmth once again to the western United States. And in terms of precipitation, we're looking at a drier than normal trend here in the Central Plains.